Hi everyone, this is episode 10 of the LKB Podcast. Most excited to get into the double figures on episodes. Today we've got Shannon Sullivan. She is a mental health coach who is going to be talking about her own experience of, I need to look at the word for this one, emetophobia. And we're going to be talking how she's gone from running an Essex-based cake business to now also running alongside with her mental health coaching. So welcome to the show, Shannon.
Thank you. Thanks
How
for
are
having
you?
me. Yeah, really good. Excited to be here.
Good. It's glad. I'm chuffed to bits that you can come in because this isn't one we've covered yet at all on any of the podcasts.
Yeah.
And, mental health is such a big thing, as we know, across the board
100%.
for everybody.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us, first of all, a little bit about your cake business and how you've gone from that to then going into what you're doing now.
Okay, great. So, yes, I do have a cake business. I think that's what people most want to talk about when they meet me. They just hear the word cake and that's just all we talk about. So I've been running that for, I think it's 7 years now.
Wow.
So I started just after university, did a degree in business management, thought I was going to work in the city, but it was always my dream to have a bakery, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, let's give it a go. I started making cakes for friends and family and it just kind of took off by itself.
Wow.
And yeah, it's still doing amazing.
Was that in
7 years
lockdown
later.
at all, or was it before?
It was actually before. I think a lot of people assume it was like a lockdown business, but it was 2018.
Okay.
So a little bit before, which actually I think gave me a sort of a good head start because I actually had quite a big customer base by the time lockdown started. So then when everybody started a cake business in lockdown, I wasn't too worried about all the competition because I think most of those people then went back to their jobs afterwards.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's going really well. Been doing that. Built it up so that I can hire people now and it's freed up a little bit of my time. So
And what's that business called?
Shannon's Cakes.
Shannon's Cakes.
Not the most imaginative
But yeah,
name.
but it is what it says.
Exactly. So yeah, that is Brentwood based in Essex, but people come to me from all over. And
Amazing.
because I've just moved to Malden as well, I'm going to start offering collections in Malden as well.
Fab.
So
Good to know.
open it up a little bit more across
great.
Essex. But yeah, where that's sort of just doing really well now and I don't have to be, I mean, I am still very involved in it and do still work quite long hours, but it's given me a bit of free time to start my next business now, which I'm super passionate about.
Yeah.
So I love the cake so much. It's like my baby because, I've done it for so long now. But I just really had this passion and that was because it's something that I suffered with for so many years. And so I went through emetophobia. I had it from quite a young age and I did overcome it through going through a program, which I'll talk to you more about.
Yeah.
And I did that at the age of 21. And ever since then, ever since I overcame it, I've just been so passionate about people knowing that they can overcome a phobia, anxiety, depression, OCD, pretty much any mental health issue.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it is so talked about now, but it's not talked about that you can cure it.
No, you're right.
So, it's sort of the narrative is more, it's okay to not be okay, which is fine, but I don't think it is okay to not be okay long term.
And also it's always a case of, make sure you're talking to people and that's all well and said and done. But at the same time, I know if I have a down day, sometimes I don't want to talk to anyone and you just don't. So you had something called emetophobia. It's a right tongue twister.
It is,
I'd never heard of it before. And I'm sure there's lots of people that will be listening who will think, what the hell is that? I don't know. I've never heard of it. But actually, when I looked into it very briefly, because I'm going to let you do all the talking on that today, I did think, wow, there's probably a lot of people I know with very similar things that relate to emetophobia. So do you want to tell us what it is?
So it is a fear of sickness. So it's either a fear of you being sick or someone else being sick around you. For me, it was all of it. I was just absolutely terrified. And I think a lot of people go, well, no one likes to be sick.
No,
and I'm like,
no.
Yeah, okay.
I hate being sick.
Obviously,
I will put it off as long as I can. If I feel sick, I'm like, can't handle it. But it's not a fear.
Exactly. When it gets to the point of a phobia, it controlled my whole life. So I had it from a fairly young age without realising. I didn't even know what emetophobia was until someone told me I had it. But looking back on my life now, I can see it sort of throughout my teenage years. And I just thought it was just part of who I was. You know, everyone's sort of got their quirks and things like that they just...
It's a shame to feel like that though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because actually you shouldn't have to feel like that's just
exactly.
part of how you are.
But sort of looking back on like, you know, school and stuff like that, if anyone ever said, oh, I feel really sick, or like I would panic immediately and like leave the room or start to feel really sick. And I just didn't really question it, to be honest. I just thought that's just me.
And is there something that you can remember, like when you was really young or something, that where you were poorly?
There's not like a particular trigger. And I think everyone thinks that if you have a phobia, you have to have had like a traumatic experience. I didn't really have that. Like I haven't actually been sick since I was 8 years old.
Right, wow.
So, you know, when I started to get really bad with this, sort of in my late teens and 20s, even I couldn't really understand why I was so scared of it.
Yeah.
Having like, you know, it's not like I was just sick all the time, or, you know, maybe it was more the fear of the unknown or so yeah, there's not, you know, I was obviously sick when I was younger, but they weren't things that I look back on and think that was a trigger.
Yeah.
But I do look back and see lots of things like in my environment that kind of probably all stacked up on top of each other and sort of created my beliefs that it was a scary thing, something to be avoided. So yeah, it kind of just stayed quite low key through my teens. It didn't really rule my life. It's just something I knew I had. And I knew I had to get out of situations if there was anything to do with sickness.
And when you say about those situations, because I was thinking, when you said you've not been sick since you was 8 years old, I'm sure there'll be lots of people that are listening and can relate. But there were plenty of times where I was throwing up as a teenager from drinking too much cider or 2020, all these different drinks that we used to, and friends around me doing the same. So did you go, I mean, I don't know if you drank alcohol as a teenager like I did, but did you have those experiences?
Well, because I was so scared of it and did everything in my power to not be sick, I didn't really drink.
No,
I would have a few, but I would always stop myself.
Yeah.
And, you know, part of me probably wanted those experiences, but I was, you know, and I always would just make excuses. Oh, like, I'm not having for this reason or this reason, because obviously it was quite strange as a teenager to not drink a lot.
Yeah.
And I sort of found myself becoming friends with the people who were less into
wise decision
going out and drinking all the time. But and again, I don't think I was doing it consciously at the time. It was all just like self-preservation, like we just need to prevent this at any cost. So I would just stay away from it. I didn't ever have more than 2 drinks ever, and sort of took that into my late teens. Like even at university, I actually decided to not move out for university. I said I'm only going if I can get into a university that I can commute to.
Right.
Which luckily I did get into one. Yeah. Because I was just so scared of like being in halls with people, and obviously as a massive drinking culture at university. Yeah. I think I went to 1 or 2 parties the whole of my university experience, and I think I called my dad to pick me up at like midnight.
Really? Because you would start panicking, thinking, oh,
like, you know, people are getting drunk now, and people would like hand me drinks, and I remember like taking them and then like going to the toilet and just like pouring them out.
Really?
Because I didn't want to like be seen as weird. So,
oh, bless you.
Yeah, so, you know, at that point I knew more. I was obviously more aware, sort of like 18, 19, 20, what I was doing. But that is sort of the time when it started to get worse for me as well at university. And I think looking back, it was when there was like change in my life. So I noticed it when I went to secondary school. I started to feel really unwell and didn't realise that was why. And it was, you know, the anxiety and all of those things.
Because with anxiety, one of the symptoms can be that you feel really sick, right?
Exactly. So. And then it's a vicious cycle, because if you feel sick from anxiety and you've got emetophobia, you then panic that you feel sick, thinking that like you might have a bug or something. And then because of the panic, you make yourself feel even more sick.
Yeah.
And then it just continues.
Yeah, wow.
So for years, I felt sick pretty much every day.
Wow.
Just from the stress of it.
Yeah, and being anxious.
And I actually also for years did not realise that I was doing that myself. I thought I had something physically wrong with me. And I kept going to the doctor and I said, I feel unwell all the time.
Yeah.
You need to do tests on me.
Yeah.
And they did every test under the sun. I had every blood test, ultrasound, like so many different things over the course of years. Everything came back that I was fine. And in the end, they were like, we think you've got IBS because they diagnose that when they can't find anything else. But I just still wasn't happy with that diagnosis. I was like, this isn't IBS. I feel unwell every day. And I was having like episodes as well, probably every few weeks, where I'd wake up in the middle of the night panicking, thinking I was going to be sick. That was probably like panic attacks looking back on it. But again, didn't realise what that was.
Wow.
And it took probably like 3 years for a doctor to say to me, do you think this could be like mental? Do you have anxiety? Are you stressed about anything? And it's quite crazy to look back on now that it took that long for someone to say something.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, this was
now it'd be one of the first questions.
Yeah,
wouldn't
exactly.
it?
This was sort of 8-9 years ago, which, you know, at that time I didn't really know anyone with mental health issues. It wasn't particularly talked about necessarily. I think now, like, it's amazing how talked about it is, that we have that sort of understanding. But yeah, that was the first time anyone had mentioned that to me. And I was a bit like, no, like I don't. I was like,
You were
well,
like, I don't think I have.
Yeah.
You didn't think
No, I was like, well, yeah, I suppose like I am quite an anxious person. And like, I was kind of confused because I'd been on this track for so long thinking it was something physically wrong with me. But when they suggested it, I sort of like, I started to accept it and think, well, if I am creating it, then this is good because I can get over it. So actually something clicked in me and they referred me for therapy. So I tried that first, did CBT, but that just didn't work for me. I just didn't get on with it. I know it does for some people, but...
And just explain what CBT is as well for the listeners, for those that don't know.
Yeah, so it's just a form of therapy basically. And they just tried to talk to me, and it was the first time actually someone had really talked to me about emetophobia because I did not know what it was before.
And had they given you that diagnosis of that word? When did they tell you that word?
That was only when I went for the therapy.
Right.
I don't think even the doctor said it. It was when I started to explain things to this therapist, they realised, oh, you're scared of throwing up, you're scared of other people throwing up. And I was like, well, yeah. I was like, obviously,
but you just thought that was the norm,
I just didn't know it was a thing. And yeah, so they then diagnosed me with it. So we just did exercises every week, but it was a lot of talking about sickness and stuff. And I just came away feeling more panicked and upset because when you're like absolutely terrified of it.
I can't imagine that's the best thing
it just didn't make sense to me. So I did see it through, but I just didn't feel any better after. So then I went to a private therapist, which was just like talking therapy. But again, like she just wanted to delve into like everything negative in my life. And then I would come out of those sessions crying because I was like,
right,
you know, we've just talked about everything negative. Like, at what point am I meant to feel better in this? Like, is something just going to click at some point? I don't know. So I stopped that after maybe like 6 sessions, and I was just desperate at that point to find something that, you know, was just going to be this.
And what
like,
age were you at this point, Shannon? You've left uni.
21.
21. And how old are you now?
28.
Okay.
Just turned 28, yeah. So it was just by chance. I just finished therapy, and my mum actually mentioned to me, because obviously my family knew about it at this point. She said she works in a school, and she said these people came in to talk at the school, and they're called the Thrive Program. And some of the stuff they were talking about sounds really similar to like what you have. And they said like they can cure it basically. And she said, have a look online. I've looked at the testimonials, and there's so many people on there saying that they've overcome their phobia. She said, like, it might be worth just having a look. And because at that point I was just so desperate to find something that would help me, I looked it up, and it sounded too good to be true. I was like, this just sounds like a magic cure. It just, yeah. But at that point I was like, let's just go for it. You know, what have I got to lose? So I went through a program, and it's a course, it's an actual program. So it's like 6 to 8 weeks, and you can go through the book, or you can go through it with a coach who will guide you through it.
Is this online? Online?
So it can be online. Some people do it in person, but obviously most things are online now. But you can get like a physical book to go through, and then so you go through it week by week. And I went to go and see a coach, and within the first 1 or 2 sessions, it just clicked for me.
Really?
And I was like, I just understood. It was the first logical thing I'd heard, and I need logic. I'm a very, you know, at school I was like mathematical, and like I needed the reasoning behind why I was feeling this way and how I could stop doing it. And that's exactly what it gave me. It's all like completely research, fact based. You know, the back of it is just full of all the research paper references. So yeah, within a couple of weeks I was like, wow. And I just knew that I was never going to have it again. I was like over it, and I had to put in the work. It did take time after that to really implement everything that's in the course and make sure I was putting that into my everyday life. But yeah, a couple of weeks in, I was like, this is it. I know I'm going to get better now. Yeah. And just since then, I've literally been cured.
Wow, amazing. And you've still never been sick though? No. And you would even feel like you wouldn't have to fear if you were now?
Yeah, like there's been a few occasions where like I thought I was going to be sick, or like, but it's just never panicked me. People have been sick near me and it's not panicked me. I've been around people who feel sick. Like there's so many examples now where I know before it would have just sent me into a massive spiral. Yeah. And in day-to-day life, like we're not normally confronted with sick. Like it's fairly rare. So on a day-to-day basis, I'm just not worried about it at all. If I am confronted with it, I'm still a little bit like, that's not very nice.
No,
but
it's not.
Everyone's like that. Yeah. And sometimes I just have to like check in with my own thinking, work through my stages. But now that takes me like 20 seconds. Wow. Whereas like years ago, when I'd just gone through the program, it might have taken me a few hours. But as I said beforehand, I probably would have been in a spiral for like a week. Yeah. Over just someone telling me like they'd had a bug and then I was around them. So
crazy.
The difference now is,
So what do you, in terms of like, obviously talking about it on here is like one thing, but, and I'd never heard of it. So, you know, are you finding that it is becoming more of a thing across your, obviously I'm guessing because you're doing the mental health coaching now, you're getting clients that are coming to you, and is it very similar situation to you, or is it kind of, does it have other stuff surrounding it, emetophobia, or is it just the sickness?
So the emetophobia is mainly the sickness. It can affect other things, like it affects eating and things like that, because obviously you're worried about food poisoning. Yeah. It affects travel. You're scared of like going on a plane in case you're sick or anyone else is sick. It quite literally did affect every aspect of my life. And the problem with a fear of being sick is you can never fully control it. So you can... Like, I barely left the house when it was at its worst because I just didn't want to be around anyone for the potential of them being sick. But then there's a potential that I could eat something that could make me sick. Yeah. Or, you know, my family coming into the house, they could have a bug. And so unless you literally are living in a cabin in the woods and you're eating, like, only, like, crisps or something, like, it's just... You're scared every day, basically, because there's always a chance. Yeah. Like, you know, if you're scared of the sea on a day-to-day basis, you're not going to be scared because you're not near the sea, and you can just avoid the sea if you want to. But, you know, with this, there's no real avoiding it, which is why it's really devastating for people with it.
Yeah, to live with that. Yeah, it's awful. You don't realise how much the thinking of being sick could actually, like you say, travel, getting on about anything.
Honestly, it's like everything you could think of. Even the sort of like going to the shops and getting a pint of milk. Like I was like, what if I feel sick on the way? What if I embarrass myself? What if I pick up something there? Like the stuff that was going through my mind, it's hard to even think now that I was thinking that way. Like obviously having come through it, it's shocking that was in my own mind.
Yeah, you must feel like you've come such a long way.
And my mind now is so like quiet and nice to live in, you know. It's so like happy now.
Well, that's why you've got the space in your head now to help others with it, right?
100%.
So, do you find? Tell us, can other people? Is it something that it can be brought on by some kind of trauma for some people?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Some people come to me and they say very definitely, this happened to me, and ever since then, I've been scared of it. But at the same time, there's probably other factors going on, because you could have the same experience with sort of 10 people, you know, a really bad bout of food poisoning that, you know, you're in bed for days and days. And, you know, 9 people after the food poisoning might just go, well, that was horrible, but then move on with their lives. But then one person might go, I can never deal with that again. This is terrifying to me now. And, you know, create a phobia.
Go from there.
And it's like, well, why has that one person developed that? It's probably a mix of things in their surroundings. You know, is there already a little bit of health anxiety in there? Was there some issues before? Was there some anxiety? You know, it won't always just be that one traumatic experience.
Yeah.
But it can be triggered by something.
Yeah. And as you were healing with your course, it sounds like the course that you're talking about, you did obviously kicked in pretty quickly. But what did you find? Was there any real challenging parts of trying to heal the process that you had to overcome?
Well, the program is not like exposure therapy at all. It actually doesn't really even talk about sickness, and you can do it for any phobia or anxiety. So there is actually a specific emetophobia free program that they've created, but you can go through it for a fear of flying or absolutely anything. And then there's the Thrive program manual, which is just for anxiety or depression, OCD, pretty much any mental health issue. So going through the program, because it wasn't actually talking about the sickness, it just focuses in on your belief systems, like your thoughts. It basically takes you right back to the root cause. I like to say it's like a factory reset on your brain, because a lot of therapy, it talks about the problem as it's happening. So it was like, how can we get you to deal with a panic attack? You know, if you're having a panic, how can you calm down in that situation? But I wanted to know how not to have the panic attack in the first place. Yeah. And that's what this does. It literally strips back everything you were thinking before and actually teaches you like how to properly think and build your beliefs and build a, you know, positive outlook on life. And we're not taught that,
no,
you know, like, and it should be taught in schools. And actually now they're starting to bring it out in schools a little bit as well, which is amazing because kids would really benefit from knowing these things.
I can't remember the guy's name, but I didn't follow him until yesterday because he popped up, and I think his brother had committed suicide through being depressed, and then he's just recently, you might follow him, but he's just recently got something into schools where they're now going to, it's like mandatory that all they have to do across the mental health basis. It's so important because it starts so young as well, doesn't it?
100%.
Especially now we've all got access to phones and stuff.
Yeah.
So tell me, what led you, obviously your experience led you into becoming the coach you are today, but at what point of going through it yourself did you think, oh wow, I need to do this to help others?
So pretty much, like, even as I was going through it, I just became obsessed with it because I was like, I'd been searching for so long for the cure, and when I knew that was it, I just started telling my family all about it all the time. I was like, you need to listen to this. This is like groundbreaking stuff. And it's actually not groundbreaking. It's actually very like common sense stuff. But when your brain hasn't been going there to the common sense things, it felt really groundbreaking. So I literally just became obsessed with it. I told everyone, whenever it sort of vaguely came up in conversation, I wanted to share it with people. And once I knew that you can overcome, you know, a phobia to the point where I'd completely like isolated myself, you know, it was probably as bad as it could get. To go from that to the life I'm living now is just, it would have been unimaginable for me like 10 years ago. So I just became really passionate about other people knowing that you don't have to live that way.
Yeah.
So obviously I was only 21 when I went through the program. So I kind of had it in the back of my head, like I would love to share this with people one day. But A, I felt like maybe I was too young, and B, I was in the middle of like growing my cake business at that point, and I was doing really long hours doing that. Like I was
You're like, how am I going to do it?
Yeah, I know. I sort of threw myself into that. I was doing like 70, 80-hour weeks to sort of grow a business as you do at the start. And then I just thought, I can sort of come back to it one day. And I started thinking about it a couple years ago. As I'd started to hire people for my cake business, I thought, this is freeing up a little bit of my time now. And I'm still really passionate about this. I didn't know if I was still too young, because I think a lot of people have this image in their head of like a therapist, even though it's not therapy. Of being like a sort of 50-year-old man or something.
Yeah.
And they maybe seem more like wise or trusted. I don't know.
Or had more experience. I think some people would maybe look on it as.
Exactly that. But I thought, well, I have done the program myself. I've got the first-hand experience of it has changed my life. I'm obsessed with the content. And there's so many people like my age and younger, and it does mainly affect girls. It's like 90%
really
girls emetophobia.
Wow.
Because we have a much higher disgust propensity. Like
Right.
boys more often are sort of like fine with icky
things.
So it does normally affect girls more. So actually I thought, well, they might relate to me more. So I got in contact with the owner, the creator of the Thrive program, Rob Kelly, and he had a call with me and he said, no, you're perfect. Like all these sort of girls or young people like online now, they need someone to look up to who's done exactly what you've done.
And do they typically recruit people to push their course to other people as well?
They only now take people on who have been through the program themselves. Because obviously we are going to have the best knowledge and experience. And I think until you have gone through how bad it can be and then come out the other side, I don't think you can really teach it or understand it in the same way. And I think that's why I struggled with therapy as well, because I just didn't think they got what I was going through. So now being able to go through it with people and saying to them, I know what, like the state you're in right now, I know how bad it is, but please like look at me. And there's nothing special or different about me. There's no reason why I overcame it and you can't. So to be able to say that to people,
it's amazing.
I think that's actually been a really good thing.
Did Rob, the guy who owns the course, Rob Kelly, did you say? Did he have it?
No, so he like has got a background in sort of different therapies, psychotherapies, and he used to see people like just as a therapist for years, but sort of saw it wasn't 100% working for them,
right? And
was very like, I need to find a way.
He is wondering why.
Yeah, exactly. So he was in Cambridge at the time, and actually a lot of the research was done at the University of Cambridge. And he got, some other people involved and sort of really went deep into the mind. And, just I think he became quite obsessed with it as well. And like he found all these sort of psychological foundations, and then he built the program around that.
Wow.
And that was, I think, it's fairly new, maybe like 15 years ago.
Really? Wow.
But he's literally helped thousands and thousands of people since then. So
that's incredible.
Yeah.
And do you have any success stories yourself so far in your own coaching?
Yeah. So I started officially at the start of this year and have already taken several people through.
Amazing.
I've actually taken quite a few teenagers through, and we do that with their parents. So obviously
that's great,
because of their age, and also so that they've got someone in the household supporting them through it and making sure they understand what their child is going through. So literally one of the first people I took through, he was then able to go on holiday, and literally after 2 sessions with me dropped all of his safety seeking behaviours. So he used to have to take sickness tablets,
And this
like
is a
the
guy,
travel
because you
ban.
said mostly
Yeah,
girls.
so it
but
was
it's-
actually
I
a
wonder
boy.
if,
Yeah.
because the whole anxiety, mental health is getting worse, or we're talking about it more. I wonder if now more
I think it is
males will
becoming
come
more
through.
prevalent. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do think that. So yeah, he was absolutely fine going on holiday. His mum was texting me saying like, I can't believe
Wow.
he's dropped all of these things.
Oh, as a parent, that must be
Yeah,
amazing.
honestly. Another teenage girl I took through, she hadn't been to a restaurant for 3 years, I think. And
Wow.
after going through it with me, she actually went with me and her mum because they were local to me.
Oh, that's so
And
lovely.
her mum, like, it was really emotional for all of us,
Yeah, it
to be
makes me
honest.
go cold.
Yeah.
That's so lovely.
And, you know, and then that weekend after, she went out for lunch with her friends, this girl.
Oh,
and
wow.
just, yeah, like the mum sent me the most beautiful message that did make me cry, because to change someone's life in that way, and, you know, I'm not actually doing it. I'm, you know, guiding them and helping them through it. They're putting that work in that they need to do. But to be a part of that for someone is, yeah, it's the most incredible thing.
It's incredible, isn't it? I have the same thing with my job, like with helping women like lose weight, feel better, more confident. And a lot of the time as well, and I'm sure you'll find this as you go through with more and more clients, and then you get the feedback. It's like you don't give yourself the credit a lot of the time, and then actually something happens and you're like, oh wow, God, I am making a difference, which is incredible.
It's amazing. Like, I love the cake business because I get a lot of happy, positive feedback from that. But at the end of the day, I'm not sort of benefiting like society much. Like,
I don't know.
Maybe, you know, bringing some happiness to some occasions.
Yeah, absolutely.
But to actually make a difference in someone's life is just,
to a point of that where they're so low with something, and then you're just turning their life around. And the smallest things, like you say, going to a restaurant, like
I know.
it's such a small thing for like you and I maybe now, but that can be such a difficult thing. Yeah. And like you say, even going on holiday, people not even going on holiday because of this situation is just terribly sad.
I know.
I mean, I love a holiday. It's what I live for. So I find it really hard to understand, but it is what people are suffering.
And me too now. Like, I didn't go on holiday for years because of it. And now, like, literally it's my favorite thing in the world. And I I sat my boyfriend down the other day and I was like, can we please like map out all the dates that we've got free so I can start booking more holidays the rest of this year? Because it's like my favorite thing to do now and all I look forward to. So to be able to go from like not even being able to think about getting on a plane to this is my favorite thing is
fantastic. And tell me, which is probably quite a good thing to do, because there might be parents that are listening who have teenagers that are going through the same thing. What advice would you give to relatives on how they can manage it? You know, because also I don't know what your coaching costs or anything like that, but you know, and some people might not be able to afford that kind of help. What can people do to help their children or relatives in the situation of it?
I think it is amazing now that it's more talked about, because as I said, I didn't even know what it was or what I was going through. So I see a lot of teenagers coming to me, or even children who are recognizing what it is, which is brilliant. So being able to have like an open discussion about it and actually being able to hear how your child feels, and then just being able then to make them feel more comfortable in those situations, because it can sometimes get mistaken as like maybe bad behavior. You know, I used to like refuse going to family meals and things like that, and I didn't actually fully understand why I was doing that. And luckily my family were very like supportive, and they were like, oh, okay, like that's a shame, but like we hope you're okay, kind of thing. But you know, some people might take that as, oh, they're just, you know, don't want to be
dramatic.
Exactly. But it might be just, you know, sitting your child down and saying, you know, could we have a little chat of like why you're feeling like that, and how can I like support you in this, and is there a way we could make it easier for you? Because sometimes it might have just been, for me, a parent saying, you know, if you do feel unwell while we're there, I can just take you home, it's not a problem. Like, you don't have to feel uncomfortable, or maybe just try coming out, and if you don't, you know, it's just having that sort of empathy for it, and not just straight away going to, oh, we're there acting up, or, you know, because especially in younger children it can be mistaken for that, where they maybe can't fully communicate it.
Yeah.
So, you know, if they are doing things maybe around eating, you know, they're not eating certain things like maybe chicken or certain meats and things like that, and you think maybe it's because they're worried about food poisoning, you know, there are a lot of signs and signals that children will give to show that they're worried about it,
Yeah.
but maybe not tell you directly.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's funny actually, because now I'm just thinking of a friend, I don't need to say names, but and her son she said it's such an issue going out for dinner. He just won't eat anything. And I remember her really, really struggling. She had one boy that was completely fine and normal, and the other one was. And now I think about it, I wonder if he had an element of something along the anxiety of just eating out, whether it's the emetophobia or not, I don't know. But yeah, it's funny, isn't it? And she would get frustrated with it.
Yeah.
But then she realised it was actually a bit more of an issue.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you know, it can sometimes be linked to eating disorders. I'm taking people through for eating disorders as well.
Right.
And although it's not necessarily the same thing or for the same reasons, the sort of root cause is the same, that it's sort of looking for control, but feeling completely out of control.
Yeah.
So with the fear of sickness, the fact that you can never fully control it is the thing that's terrifying, but you have a massively high desire for control.
Right.
So you want to try and control every situation around you, but then you feel like you can't, so then you're panicking.
Yeah.
And with eating disorders, it's a similar thing in that they feel out of control in some way, but then they've decided to control their eating because that is something that they feel like is in their power.
Yeah.
So that is what they're putting their control onto.
Yeah.
But actually, it's because they don't have any. They don't have those sort of coping skills, and they don't feel powerful enough in themselves to be able to deal with these things.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
It is amazing, and it's so great to learn about it today. So that's definitely taught me a lot. Shannon, tell people, where can we find you? Like, what are you doing to get the word out there? What are you doing to build your business, etc. now?
So obviously with the cake business, I've been so busy with that that, you know, I've been on one other podcast. This is my second podcast.
Oh, is it really?
And yeah,
fab.
I'm just trying to speak to as many people about it as possible.
Yeah, I think it's great.
And just because when you do start speaking about it, as you said, like you can think of examples of people who might have it, or, you know, and I think everyone can relate in some way to some mental health issue.
Yeah.
So I've been posting on Instagram. I need to get a bit more consistent with
Oh
that
my God, it's so time consuming. So I totally understand.
It is, yeah. But I'm posting on there. And yeah, hopefully people can just.
What's your Instagram handle? Is it Thrive?
It is thrive.with.shannon.s.
Okay, cool.
It's a long one.
And I'll be sharing it when this goes live. It goes on YouTube and Spotify. So we'll share and put your page, etc. on there as well. And what about, are you on Facebook or anything like that too?
No, I'm an Instagram
Just
girl.
Insta at the moment. Fab. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And whoever's listening, you know, definitely get in touch. Stick a comment on if you want to. Obviously, all of that helps with the podcast. But Shannon is contactable should you need her services. And feel free to contact her. But thank you so much for coming on and teaching us.
Thank you for having me. I've loved it.
Good luck with spreading the word, because I do think that's probably something that's going to definitely grow for you. So huge well done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you next time, guys.